There is a quiet truth about children who grow up ignored. They often become adults who struggle to believe they deserve to be noticed. They walk into rooms and instinctively look for the safest corner. They smile just enough, speak just softly enough, always aware of how much space they take up and how easily that space can disappear. Not because they lack confidence or character, but because somewhere along the way, silence became the language of safety. When you grow up ignored, you don't stop needing love. You just learn to need it quietly. You fold your wants into smaller shapes. You keep your excitement low so it won't draw disappointment. You train yourself to be self-sufficient, not because you want to be, but because depending on someone has never worked. Psychologists call this an internalized neglect schema, a set of invisible rules written into the nervous system. It's not the result of a single wound, but of 1,000 tiny absences that pile up until they become a structure. A house built from moments when a small hand reached out and nothing met it. Imagine a child drawing something beautiful. They run to show a parent who is busy, distracted, or too tired to look up. They try again at dinner. Still nothing. The child doesn't cry, they adapt. And with each silent response, a quiet conclusion takes root. My excitement doesn't matter. My presence doesn't change anything. Once is disappointment. 10 times becomes a lesson. 100 times becomes identity. So the child begins to edit themselves out of the picture. They stop raising their voice in class. They stop expecting comfort when they fall. They begin to anticipate invisibility, and they become masters at providing it. Neglect rarely looks like cruelty. It often hides beneath routine, inside good intentions, a parent overwhelmed with work, a mother exhausted by survival, a father silently repeating what was done to him. It doesn't need malice to leave a mark. It only needs absence. Neglect is trauma by omission, a wound made of what never happened. And the child adapts beautifully. They stop asking for help because asking leads to nothing. They stop celebrating because joy feels unsafe when no one joins in. They stop crying because there's no point in being comforted if no one comes. By adolescence, that silence becomes second nature. They learn how to disappear in plain sight. They walk down hallways and assume every whisper is about them. They learn to downplay success before anyone else can ignore it. Their brilliance hides under humility. Their pain hides under politeness. It isn't shyness, it's self-protection. Their nervous system has learned that invisibility is the only reliable form of safety. They don't consciously decide to shrink. Their body simply remembers that being unseen kept them alive. Developmental psychology tells us that every child needs 3 essentials to grow whole: safety, stimulation, and connection. Safety keeps the body alive. Stimulation grows the mind. But connection, being seen, heard, and mirrored, teaches the child who they are. When that mirror is missing, identity becomes blurred. The child learns about others in exquisite detail, their moods, their patterns, their expectations, but never learns the same about themselves. Their inner world becomes a blank page written on only by what others allow. And yet, that sensitivity, that radar for emotional weather, becomes their superpower. They can read a room before anyone speaks. They can sense the smallest shift in tone, the hidden sigh in someone's voice, the faintest frown at the edge of a smile. They become the peacemakers, the caregivers, the ones who know what everyone else needs, except themselves. From the outside, people call them empathetic, graceful, endlessly patient. Inside, they are exhausted. They're scanning for signs of danger while smiling to prove they're fine. Because deep beneath the calm exterior lives a single rule. If I go unnoticed, I'm safe. If I'm seen, something will be taken away. That's the cruel genius of emotional neglect. It teaches the body to mistake absence for peace. Even years later, attention feels suspicious. Praise feels like a trap. Someone asks how you feel, and your instinct is to deflect to say, "I'm fine," before the question has even finished. But you weren't quiet because you were content. You were quiet because no one listened loudly enough to hear you. You learned to speak in silence because that was the only language the room understood. And yet, inside that silence, something remarkable survived. A faint, stubborn spark that refused to disappear. It waited, patient and small, for the day you'd realize that being unseen was never the same as being unworthy. That spark is what brought you here now. It's proof that even when the world failed to mirror you, you kept a reflection of your own somewhere deep inside. And it's from that reflection, fragile, flickering, but real, that the world of being seen again begins. Every adaptation that kept you safe as a child doesn't simply disappear when you grow up. It follows you, soft, invisible, familiar. It lives in the tone you use to ask for help, in the way you hesitate before sharing good news, in how you brace for disappointment even when everything is fine. The ignored child often becomes the adult who mistakes solitude for peace. You may prefer quiet, not because it feels nurturing, but because it's predictable. Silence feels like home. You know how to survive in it. Attention, on the other hand, feels uncertain. When someone finally notices you, a part of your body tenses, preparing for the moment that attention will vanish again. You don't mean to keep people at a distance. It just feels safer to carry the conversation, to listen more than you speak, to become the person everyone turns to, but rarely looks at. In friendships, you might be the steady one, the helper, the listener. People trust you with their secrets because you feel safe. But when it's your turn to share, something inside freezes. The words feel too heavy, too unnecessary. You tell yourself, they don't really want to know. And even if they insist, there's a part of you that doesn't quite believe them. In love, the echoes grow louder. Some ignored children become chasers, desperate for connection, terrified of losing it. You might find yourself clinging to those who give you attention, mistaking intensity for intimacy. You try to earn love the way you once tried to earn acknowledgement, through effort, through caretaking, through self-erasure. You love by disappearing. Others go the opposite way. You build walls, strong and elegant, convincing yourself that independence is freedom. You avoid leaning on anyone. You say, "I don't need much," or "I'm fine on my own." But beneath that composure, loneliness grows like ivy, quietly, persistently, wrapping around every heartbeat. Both patterns share the same root, a nervous system that learned early on that connection isn't reliable, so it either clings too tightly to it or avoids it altogether. It's the same wound, expressed in opposite directions. And then there's work, the stage where invisibility feels useful again. The ignored child grows into the high-functioning adult. You anticipate what everyone needs before they ask. You stay late, double-check, smooth over every conflict. You become the glue that holds everything together. And still, when the credit is given, it seems to land on everyone else. You smile and say it doesn't matter, but inside, the same ache whispers, "It happened again." This pattern isn't laziness. It isn't weakness. It's loyalty. You're loyal to the version of yourself that survived. The child who learned that invisibility was the price of belonging. And even now, part of you believes that if you take up too much space, love will quietly exit the room. Sometimes, this loyalty shows up in the smallest details. You apologize when someone bumps into you. You say sorry before voicing a need. You overthink every message you send, editing out words that might sound too much. It's not self-doubt, it's self-protection disguised as politeness. But here's what the psychology of growth reveals. What once protected you eventually confines you. The shell that kept you safe becomes the cage that keeps you small. And one day, you realize that you've built a life that looks peaceful, but feels hollow. You're surrounded by people who like you, admire you even, but no one truly knows you. Not because they don't care, but because you never let them see past the calm surface. And deep down, there's another kind of fatigue, not physical, but emotional. A weariness that comes from always being the observer, never the one observed. You start to wonder, if I stopped being useful, would I still be loved? That question alone is proof that the echo is still alive. Jung wrote that what we repress doesn't disappear, it waits for acknowledgement. The ignored child never dies. They linger inside the adult, waiting for someone to look back and finally say, I see you. Not in pity, not in analysis, but with genuine presence. That moment, the first time you feel seen without performing, can feel overwhelming. You might cry without knowing why. You might want to run, because your body, so used to being unnoticed, suddenly doesn't know what to do with light. But that light isn't dangerous. It's recognition. And recognition is how healing begins. Many people think healing from neglect means confronting the parents who caused it, but often it's something quieter. It's noticing the places where you still keep yourself small and asking, gently, if that's still necessary. You start to catch it in the moment. When someone offers kindness and you almost deflect. When you downplay your success and realize you're trying to stay invisible again. When you're tempted to stay silent and something inside whispers, not this time. These moments are where the echo begins to fade. Because healing isn't one grand breakthrough. It's hundreds of small interruptions to an old pattern. Each one saying, I no longer need to be unseen to stay safe. And that realization changes everything. It turns silence into a choice instead of a sentence. It turns invisibility into solitude. Something peaceful, not punishing. It gives you back the right to exist without justification. The adult echo doesn't disappear overnight, but each time you allow yourself to be visible, even a little, the sound of the old silence grows softer, until one day you walk into a room and instead of shrinking, you simply arrive. Healing from neglect doesn't begin with forgiveness or confrontation. It begins with recognition, the quiet moment when you finally admit to yourself, I was there and no one noticed me. That sentence alone can break the spell of silence. Because once you name what happened, you stop defending it. You stop pretending it didn't matter. You stop making excuses for the people who couldn't meet you where you were. You begin instead to meet yourself. Healing is not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with thunder or tears. Sometimes it looks like sitting in a room and realizing you don't need to earn your right to be there. It's catching the reflex to apologize for existing and deciding not to. It's noticing the urge to minimize your feelings and allowing them to stay. For someone raised by silence, acknowledgement can feel revolutionary because acknowledgement was what was missing all along. To be seen, even by yourself, is to rewrite the code your childhood left behind. You start small. You name what you feel without judging it. You tell yourself, I'm proud of that, even when no one else is around. You celebrate the tiny wins, the boundary you held, the truth you voiced, the moment you said no without guilt. Each of those moments teaches your nervous system a new language. It tells your body, being seen is not dangerous anymore. This is how the script begins to change, not by forcing yourself to be confident, but by allowing yourself to be real. The ignored child learned to survive by shrinking. The healing adult learns to live by expanding, slowly, safely, deliberately. Not by shouting, but by taking up a little more room each day. By trusting that visibility doesn't have to cost peace. It might start as a whisper, this matters to me. I need help. I'm tired. I deserve rest. And the world won't crumble when you say it. No one will vanish. You'll still be here, breathing, more hold than before. This is what psychologists call corrective experience. When your body encounters a new outcome that contradicts the old fear, every time you are seen and not shamed, heard and not dismissed, the old pattern loosens its grip. You begin to notice how often you used to hold your breath in conversation, how you used to rush through sentences before anyone could interrupt. Now, you leave pauses. You let silence become a friend again. Not the heavy silence of neglect, but the sacred quiet that follows being truly heard. There's power in that quiet. It's where you meet yourself, unmasked, unperformed, undeniable. Jung once said that the parts of ourselves we reject never disappear. They simply wait to be integrated. The ignored child doesn't vanish when you grow up. They wait patiently for you to look back and offer what they always needed. A steady gaze, a gentle voice, a simple acknowledgement, you matter. And when you finally say it, something subtle happens. The ache that once felt endless begins to soften. Not disappear, soften. The story stops being about loss and becomes about resilience. Because the truth is, ignored children often become the most empathetic adults. They know what absence feels like. They know the shape of loneliness. And so, when they learn to see themselves, they also learn to see others more clearly. They become the listeners who don't interrupt, the friends who notice when someone goes quiet, the healers who sit with pain instead of fixing it. This is not coincidence, it's transmutation. The very sensitivity that once felt like a burden becomes the foundation of your wisdom. You turn the wound into perception and perception into connection. And every time you choose to stay present instead of disappearing, you break the cycle. You become the parent your younger self needed, the friend you always search for, the mirror that reflects truth instead of silence. Healing doesn't mean your past vanishes. It means you stop living inside its shadow. It means you start building from the quiet instead of being defined by it. You learn that you can be gentle and still be strong, soft-spoken and still visible. You learn that peace isn't the same as emptiness. It's presence without fear. There will be days when the silence returns, when the old ache hums in your chest and you feel small again. That's okay. It's not a failure. It's simply your body remembering how it once survived. All you have to do is remind it that survival is no longer the goal. You're safe enough to live now. So, when that old instinct rises, don't push it away. Listen to it. Then answer softly, I see you. I hear you. You can rest now. And in that gentle reply, something ancient and tender begins to heal. Because what was broken by silence cannot be repaired by noise, only by presence, only by the kind of attention you once begged for and can now finally give yourself. You were not invisible, you were waiting to be seen, and now you are. So take up your space. Speak softly if you must, but speak, breathe, exist without shrinking. You have nothing left to prove, only a life left to live. And that is the quiet triumph of the once ignored child. You learn to survive in silence, and now you are learning to live in sound.